Welcome to Animal Posse, the podcast dedicated to the people and rescues making a difference in the lives of animals.
Today, I am welcoming Leah and dressing, and she's with Silent Voices Wildlife Rehabilitation, and she is a licensed wildlife rehabber. How are you today, Leah?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
What exactly does a licensed wildlife rehabilitator mean? But when you get into that, if you can also just tell us like your journey on to becoming a wildlife rehabilitator.
My son's very good friend worked at a vet, and he called me up about 16 years ago. Somebody had dropped off 2 baby raccoons. So I raised them and got them back into the woods. And then the next year I got 4 calls, and then it blossomed from there. And then I found out you had to be licensed by the state of Louisiana. I just thought I was helping animals. So I got my license, and then other people started calling me. So then I had people under me because you can have 5 legal subs. And then we formed Silent Voices, a group of 3 women, and we've since grown pretty big South Louisiana. And it's pretty easy to get your license, but you just have to work under a licensed rehabber for 6 months to a year. Then you go take the class that Wildlife and Fisheries puts on. It's free. And then you take a test. And if you paid attention and worked with your mentor, you know all the basic things about taking care of the babies. And then they come and inspect you. If you're gonna do raccoons, you need bigger cages, possums, smaller cages, and squirrels, and that's how I got started in it. This is going on my 17th year, and I absolutely love it.
Wow. How many raccoons have you done through your lifetime, do you think?
Oh my goodness. I'm sure it's over 4 or 500. This year alone, I've probably taken in 30, and my organization has probably taken in over 100. And I couldn't even begin to give you a total number of possums because when you get in possums, you get in 8, 10 at a time. And then we have 2 squirrel seasons, and squirrels seem to be more proliferative than rabbits. And I didn't know that until I started rehabbing. So we have March and August for squirrel season, and then possums go on for about 4 months or 5 months. Raccoon have their babies in March, and then that's the only time unless a female raccoon loses her babies and or they die or somebody takes them out of their attic, and she'll go back into heat and have another litter. So we possibly get babies in September, which we don't like because then we have to overwinter them. Because if we keep raccoons 7 to 8 to 9 months, they pretty much tell us when they want to go. But we can't just let them go. We have to teach them to be a raccoon because they stay with their moms for a year. So it's a long drawn out thing, and you just hope by November you get to release everything. So you've got 2 or 3 months of downtime to get your cages prepared for the next season and give yourself a break because it's 24 hours sometimes.
I know people are inclined if they find baby raccoons to keep them as pets. Just general public finds them and they're like, "Oh, they're so cute and I want to keep them as pets." And I don't think people realize too like why you shouldn't keep raccoons as pets. If you could go over that a little bit before we get into the actual rehab discussion.
Or my first raccoon I kept for a year. And unless you are an absolutely special person, and I love raccoons, they're my favorite animal, but I try to tell people that sweet, adorable, lovable, cute, fun raccoon that cuddled with you up until about 6 months. And then they literally turn into Cujo on crack cocaine. They will destroy your home. They're gonna attack your dog. They're gonna go after your child when she goes close to their food. They're not destructive, they're inquisitive, and if one gets in your pantry, it will look like a bomb went off. They will open everything in there. They have to have stimulation. You can't just leave them in a cage 3 days and decide on Thursday, "Oh, I'm gonna play with my baby raccoon." They have to have enrichment. They're crazy. They make horrible pets. So we tell people when you find that baby raccoon, please get it to a rehabber. And they are not solitary animals. They need to be with a group. The males travel together. So they don't do well as a single animal. And we get as many phone calls in September for the sweet people that found that little baby. And then they go, "Oh, it's gotten mean." And we go, "What did you expect? It's a wild animal." Mother Nature's calling. He's developing testicles. She's going into heat. They need to be able to get out into the wild. So it's frustrating because then they bond with one person. So I'll take in a 7-month-old raccoon that does not know it's a raccoon, has never climbed a tree. We teach them to fish. We give them cheap goldfish to fish in the little pools. We have tree limbs in their cages. I put mine in my swimming pool because I don't want the first time that they see a body of water to be one of predators chasing them. So we try to teach them everything that mom would teach them before we release them. So we're always against people keeping a raccoon as a pet. And I know people see beautiful things on Facebook about my sweet raccoon. And I'm not going to say there's not probably 1% of the population that probably does the right thing, but every raccoon you're going to see on Facebook as a pet is a pig. And 90% of them die of diabetes, pancreatitis, pancreatic cancer because they're not eating the foods that they would eat in the wild. And they're eating all these starchy things. And if you ever see a raccoon in the wild, they're not fat because they're constantly moving, constantly looking for food. So it's a little frustrating for us because I'll get them in and they're going to be mean to me because I haven't bonded with them. And then I'm trying to teach them to be a raccoon. So I totally try to talk people out of it. And I tell them, look, if you want to do the best of both worlds, rehab them. You have them when they're adorable and they're sweet and they're fun and they're cute. And then you let them go be where they should be out in the woods.
Another thing too that I would like to touch on is people when they see wildlife in urban areas. They might see like a raccoon in the daytime or a possum and they start to freak out. Is that a normal thing?
That's such old wives' tale, and we laugh and still think it's probably due to old Yeller, but I'm gonna go each animal specific. Raccoons in particular, mamas are out during the day foraging for food to produce milk. They stay with their babies at night in the tree or in a log because the owls and the hawks will come get the babies. Snakes even climb the trees and eat the babies. Male raccoons want to kill those babies so that they can mate with that female, like the laws of the jungle or in Africa for the big male cats. So everybody that sees a raccoon out during the day, oh my goodness, they have rabies. There's not been a case of rabies in South Louisiana ever from a raccoon variant rabies. So it's like people are scared to death, or I touched the baby. Am I going to get rabies? No, you're not. And then there's another fallacy about raccoons for worms. And it is a bad worm, but I tell people unless you play in the feces and then lick your fingers, you're perfectly fine because it's the eggs that are in the feces of the raccoon. And it's not good for people to get. And that's why we don't like children to be around raccoons because they do play in dirt and they do lick their fingers. So that's a fallacy for raccoons. Possums are pretty much the same way. Everybody thinks they carry diseases, and possums carry very few zoonotic diseases. Their body temperature is so low, they can't even contract rabies. They are our garbage collectors of the world because they eat everything that's dead that's out in your yard, every bug you don't want in your yard. I get a million phone calls. There's a possum on my back porch. It's going to kill my cats. And like, ma'am, I have probably 7 feral cats I feed every night. There's possums on my back porch and there's raccoons. And they just want to eat. They're not there to attack anything. Everybody gets along. Once they eat, they go off on their merry way. So I tell people if you've got possums in your yard, throw out the old food from your refrigerator because that's what they eat. They eat rotten stuff. They love slugs. I couldn't get rid of slugs in my herb garden. They love grub worms. They eat baby mice. They eat baby snakes. So they're a great animal to try and keep in your yard. Squirrels, we get a lot of calls because when it's a bad rain and of course, squirrel season is during hurricane season, and we get a million phone calls that people found a baby at the base of the tree. Mama squirrels and mama raccoons look for their babies for days, and we've had a lot of success in reuniting. So we tell people, put the squirrel in a box, nail the lid of the box as high as you can reach in the tree you think it fell out of. It does not have to be the tree. They have a piercing scream, and we have reunited so many this season. We just feel like we've finally gotten to people to listen to us because when you tell them to do this, you can tell they're skeptical. And I go, I promise you, if you give her a chance, she will come get those babies. And then they'll call me back an hour later and go, oh my gosh, I just came and watched you get all four of the little baby squirrels out of the box. And raccoons do the same thing. And we've got video of somebody sitting there filming it. Now, you have to get them up off the ground for the squirrels because mama squirrel doesn't want to get on the ground. And you have to bring your dogs and your cats in, and it has to be quiet because they want to be safe when they're retrieving their babies. But that works 9 times out of 10. And we tell people don't kidnap babies. If it looks like it's dehydrated and you can tell the eyes are sunken, they're wobbling, their skin, when you pinch their skin, doesn't flatten back out real quickly, and you think they're in dire need, then pick them up and get them to a rehabber. But most of the time, we ask people, leave them alone. There's always that one little raccoon, and I see it in my yard all the time. There'll be 4 of them following mom, and that 4th one stops to play with a leaf. He's that little kid that we all have raised one like that. And then they take off, and then he's out there by himself, lost, and people grab him. And I go, Mom will come back for him. Give her a chance to come back and get her baby. So there's just a lot of fallacy around it. We can't get wildlife and fisheries to teach this type of stuff to people because that's why I go to schools. Maybe they'll teach their parents and we can get rid of some of these falsehoods. Or I picked it up, I touched it, mama's going to reject it. And I went, that couldn't be further from the truth. We bring in these animals that we try to reunite at night because it's dangerous for them to be out there little, like I said, with the hawks and the owls. So we bring them in at night. We give them water. We do not feed them anything when we're trying to get, because we want them hungry and screaming. And then we put them back out the next morning unless it's raining or really cold, because if they don't have fur, we have to give something to keep their body temperature up. But it works. And if people would just listen to us and we could educate them, but Wildlife and Fisheries doesn't seem to be on board with the educating part. They just usually tell people let nature take its course, but mankind has interfered with nature. So we feel maybe we could help them a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too with the babies because I'm a bottle feeder for kittens. And people pick up kittens all the time, and we constantly tell them the mom is around unless those kittens look like they're in distress and they're screaming, put them back because babies are always better with their mom, their real mom. You
Eh,
cannot substitute the real mom.
Exactly. That's what we tell people. Mama does a much better job at raising their babies than we do. We do the best we can do, and we do try to emulate that. And all of our cages have that type of stuff in it. But you're right. Mama does the better job. So try. And then you get the people that know they have a hole into their attic. So there's a raccoon up there. So they trap mom, take her and dump her somewhere or kill her. And then 3 days later, find out they hear babies. And I'm going, if you would just give her a chance, she's going to take them and leave. She's got to trees. She's got to teach them to climb. But I have to say, 98% of the people call because they care about them. But you've got those 2%, like everything else in the world, that no, I want them out of my attic. And I go, if you've got a raccoon in your attic, you probably have roof rats. You probably have squirrels, and squirrels are notorious for chewing wire. I go, you can't just get the animal out of your attic and leave the hole there. You know you have a hole. Close the hole up. And then people call trappers. Trappers in Louisiana are supposed to euthanize because when you take a full grown animal out of its territory, and I tell people it's like taking a 14-year-old and dropping it off in the Rocky Mountains and going, hey, good luck. Hope you can find a place to sleep and a place to get water and food. It's the same thing with animals. They have a territory. So it's give them a chance to leave and then plug up that hole because raccoons, squirrels, and rats love the pink insulation in people's attics. And then we say that there's another way too. Raccoons and squirrels, they hate loud music. So if you put a ghetto, one of those big boom boxes, the ghetto busters up there and turn that on full force. And then I had one lady tell me, that's going to bug me. And I went, ma'am, I'm trying to help you. I'm telling you something you can do because a trapper's going to charge you $700 or $800. Just put a radio up there and turn it on. Or they hate flashing lights. Get a strobe light. Put that up in your attic. They'll leave. And they all have 2 or 3 nests prepared for 2 or 3 reasons. They find predators will find where they are. or they get nasty because the babies poop in them. So they'll just move them to the next nest that they have built. And so if people would listen to us, I mean, we've been doing this a long time now, and we try to do the simple way and the easy way for people, but there's just some people that are never going to listen.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually brought up the attic thing too, because I have a story about that. I know somebody, they contacted me asking for advice on what to do because there was a big raccoon that fell through their attic into the bedroom. And so my first thought is, okay, first off, just open the door, let her go out. To me, that's the most common sense thing to do is just open the door, get your animals out and or lock your animals up in another room. She's eventually going to go out. She doesn't want to be in there. And
Right.
so they ended up going in there. They drug her out. And I'm like, she's probably got babies. She's going to be right back. And so sure enough, they call me, "Oh, she's back." And I'm like, "Yeah, because 'cause she's got babies up there." And I'm like, "Go play some loud music or something, but you gotta give her time to just move these babies out because she's not gonna leave those
Yep.
babies."
Nope, they're great mamas. They really are. And we tell people that all the time, but they just don't want to listen and they want to do a quick fix. And then I tell people, so you've moved mama and there's babies up there. Now you're going to smell rot for a month. So if that's what you want to smell, one man was really sweet. He got the mama out, closed up the hole, and called me. And I said, "Sir, there's probably babies in your attic." He unclosed the hole. I said, "Give her a chance to go in there and get her babies out and then close the hole back up." And he did, and he said she did come back, and we tell people, if you do take a mama out of your attic and you get the babies too, that's fine, I understand. I'm not a fanatic. My husband hunts, but we eat anything he kills, so I just don't like killing, but if you get the baby and the mama out, and then you get the babies out separately, put them in a box close to where she's getting into your house because that's her usual trek. And she'll come back and she sees her babies where I usually get into the roof right there, and she'll get them. And it works. It works 90% of the time, unless their dogs are out or there's too much going on. And we just tell them, leave them out can and then go back and go check them later. And it really has worked for us. So that's what we tell the kids. And the kids listen to us. And I tell them, go home and tell your mom and dad this. Have them call us if they need us, and we'll give them all the answers that we can give them.
Yeah, you also mentioned zoonotic diseases. Can you explain a little bit what
Right.
that is?
Zoonotic diseases are diseases that animals give us, and believe it or not, diseases that we give animals. And there's a bunch of them. I could name a bunch of them for you, but like I said, most of the time, unless you're playing in the poop and licking your fingers after you play in the poop, I wash my hands 60 times a day because I'm doing most animals that we take in our big enclosures. We have it's not a swimming pool, but it's a big thing because wildlife likes to poop in water. It covers their scent for predators that are looking for them. But we have to dump those 2 or 3 times a day. And of course, it splashes out and gets on your hands. Like I said, the bacillus is a worm that raccoons carry in their feces. And supposedly it can get in humans' brains and everything. But like I said, if you don't play in the poop and don't lick your fingers, you'll be fine. Wash your hands. But that's why we don't allow children to be around raccoons because they do stick their fingers in their mouth. And there's other diseases that you can get from wildlife, but we give them just as many diseases. The three top killers of raccoons are parvo, distemper, and cars. And parvo and distemper is because people don't vaccinate their pets, and they're both extremely contagious diseases, and they're horrible diseases. Distemper is a respiratory disease that just it's horrible. That you'll get them and you'll find them. They'll have the green snot coming out of their nose, and their eyes are all horrible. And we get a lot of distemper ones in that, and you can't save them. We go ahead and humanely euthanize them. And then parvo, it basically just rots their gut. And it's another horrible disease that you take them to a vet and there's no way you're going to save them either. So we usually euthanize those. We do take a lot of our cases in that will have a perfectly healthy animal that dies, and we don't know why. So we spend the money, and that's why we try to raise funds. So we take them to LSU for necropsies, which is an autopsy in the animal, to find out what they died from. So maybe we can prevent it because the minute we get in babies, we worm everything. Possums and raccoons carry a lot of parasites because they eat a lot of dead things. So we worm constantly. We give each of our raccoons 2 feline, 2 canine parvo distemper shots, which gets expensive. So we try to send them back out healthier than we got them in. But when you have large populations of wildlife, then a disease starts. City Park is the worst because anybody that usually trapped a possum or a raccoon, they go dump them in City Park. So then you got all these animals in City Park, and then you've got the disease spreading. And when I get a phone call when I found a baby raccoon in City Park, I have it in isolation for at least 2 weeks before I put it with another raccoon so that it won't stress out because there's so many. We just know that's a hot spot. There's a hot spot in Mandeville. There's a park over there that people go and drop, and they think they're doing a good thing by going and dropping them off, but there's just too many animals to be sustainable in that area. And so I guess it's God's way of keeping the population in check because that's the same thing we try to tell people with possums. She's only got 13 nipples in that pouch. She has 20 babies, up to 20 babies. So 7 right off the bat are going to die because they don't get from birth canal to the pouch in time. So those first 13 that get into that pouch and grab that nipple and swallow it are the ones that are going to survive. So it is the circle of life because we've got to feed every other animal out here too. We do try to give them shots so they have a better chance of surviving out in the wild.
Can you take us through when you find, say, a raccoon, a possum, a squirrel, when you get involved and when you don't get involved, and also what you need to do right then and there before you can get it to a rehabber?
Yes. Okay. I'll get a call and the dog drags up a 2-week-old possum, and I can age them just by their description of them usually. The first thing we tell people to do is get them warm. Baby animals cannot regulate their body temperature. So you have to get them warm and keep warm. And then we tell them the first thing people want to do when they find a baby is feed it. And then they look up all these crazy recipes on Google, and then they'll feed them, they'll keep them for 3 or 4 days. And then they realize, oh my goodness, I'm not getting enough food in them. They're not doing well. And then they call us and want me to work a miracle. And so then we change the formula because we order $5,000 worth of specialized formula for each species that we take in because squirrels have more fat content, raccoons have more protein. We order Fox Valley. So the minute I change to go back to feed them what they need to have, and we have to do it gradually, it gives every animal we get in diarrhea. So we say, please don't feed them. Water is fine. Don't let them dehydrate. And then I teach people how to check if they're dehydrated. You pinch their skin with your thumb and your pointer finger, and it's called tenting. And if it stays up like a tent, they're dehydrated. So if it drops back down quickly, they're not. So I go, tell me if it's dehydrated. Their little eyes are sunken. They usually don't urinate. And then, you have to stimulate baby animals like mama licks them. We wipe them with a cotton ball or whatever. So we go, get it to us as soon as you can. But the 2 most important things are get it warm, keep it warm, because I'll have people drop off brand new baby raccoons and they'll be ice cold. And it's really hard. And then people feed them when they're ice cold and all their organs shut down. And it's not, oh, it'll survive. If you feed a baby animal that's ice cold, their organs shut down because you're trying to keep them warm so they don't digest that food. And that's what kills them. So those are the 2 things we tell them. Don't feed them, get them warm, and get them to us. Squirrels are pretty much the same way. We get pinkies in literally the size of our thumb that they fell out of the nest or they cut down a tree. We get a lot of phone calls. They cut down a tree and there are 5 baby squirrels in it or 4 baby squirrels in it. Possums don't bottle feed. They are tube fed. And people call me up and go, oh, yeah, I've got this little possum. I've had it for 2 weeks. I've been bottle feeding it. And I go, no, you really haven't because they don't suck. They swallow mama's nipple in the pouch. It's about 2 inches long. It looks like a wet piece of spaghetti and it drips 24/7. So when we get in baby possums, they have to be fed every 2 to 3 hours. It's labor intensive. I don't tube possums because I can't be up all night, and 90% of my intakes are raccoons. So we do have some ladies that are just phenomenal with pinky possums, but I don't do it. So that's the 2 things that I'd like people to take away the most. Get them warm, don't feed them. Water is fine. And then get them to a rehab because we know what we're doing. Squirrels aspirate, and people think, oh, this is easy because squirrels do suck. but they aspirate so easily. So people will get a squirrel in, they'll have it for 2 weeks. It's eating great, but what they don't know is it's eating so fast, the milk gets in their lungs, then they develop pneumonia, and then they bring them to us going, he sounds bubbly, he's not eating anymore. And I'll go, that's because the lungs are full of milk, and then they die. Even with antibiotics, we can't save them at that point. So it's just a tough thing to try and educate people about things.
When you went over the tenting, that's something that
Uh-huh.
people find kittens, of course, I'm familiar with, so I always tell people about that as well. But I find people have difficulty with it because, like, I know for kittens, if you go to pull by the scruff, sometimes the scruff's going to stay up anyway because that's where mama grabs.
Right,
So, where should they
right.
be grabbing to do the tenting?
I do mostly on the stomach, but like you said, if they've already got fur, it's hard to tell. So wherever you can get the best grip on skin and just look, stomach hair usually comes in last. So that's where I look the most. Sometimes on the shoulder, it just depends on the animal. And sometimes once you've been doing this long enough, you can just look at their eyes and tell that they're just sunken in and their mucous membranes are dry. You can look at their gums and they're dry because they have no fluid at all in their bodies. And if you can just get a little bit of water in them every 20 or 30 minutes, that helps tremendously. So I always tell people put fresh water down in there and put them in something that get them warm. Now, possums do not need to be on heat. They don't like the heat because their body temperature is lower than most mammals. So people will get them too hot. So what I tell them to do is get a heating pad, or you can heat a water bottle or rice in a sock and heat it up, but fix it to where the animal can roll away from it if they get too hot. Don't fix it to where it's under the whole box. I'll put a box down on top of a heating pad, half on and half off. And if you go in there and look, the little possums have rolled away from the part where the heating pad was warming up because they're warm enough. Squirrels like to stay warm, and little raccoons, but they usually curl up together because you'll get a litter in when you'll get 3 or 4 squirrels and they're in a little ball and you can't tell where one head starts and the tail ends, and the same thing with raccoons. So they'll try to keep themselves warm, but when you get the singles in, they need to be kept warm.
A couple years back, I found a baby possum and I had called somebody in your group and she took the little possum that I had. But she also told me that if a possum is 7 to 8 inches long, then it's okay on its own. So at what point do you leave a possum outside?
Okay, that's a great question because people that call me all the time, there's a little possum on my front porch. And my very first question to them is, tell me how long it is from head to butt. Do not include the tail. Think about it. You've got 13 little babies in your pouch, and they're growing and they're growing. And that's when they get on top of mama's back and hold on. And she walks around and teaches them to hunt and to hunt for bugs. All 13 of them can't fit on that pouch. And possums are solitary animals. So she's out in your yard. She's got 13 babies on her back. Something scares her. She takes off. One falls off. He's going to go off on his own. Mama possums don't go back. She knows she's got 10 or 12 more on her back. So he's on his own at that point. So one of the things we tell them is if it's the size of a dollar bill from nose to butt, and because people go, I don't have a rule or I don't have any way to measure it. And I go, most people from the end of their bird finger to their wrist is 6 or 7 inches, unless you're a teeny person or a gargantuan person. So just compare it to your hand. So if they're 7 to 8 inches, we say leave them alone. Put them. What I tell people to do is, if you're worried about something getting them, put them in dense underbrush. That way they can hide from the birds. The worst thing about baby possums, their biggest predator is the birds of prey. Swoop down, come up and in some dense underbrush. Like I have iron plant in my yard and I can't even get to my tree. It's so thick. They hide in there and then they come out at night and do the bugs thing. So I'd say 7 to 8 inches. Now, most possum rehabbers, I think, keep their possums way too long. And I feel like the possums become dependent on them because that's why people find so many 7 to 8 inches. That's when they start dropping off a mom. So that's why we find so many at that size. But a lot of the possum rehabbers keep them, they want to keep them to their 2 pounds, which means they're 12 to 13 inches long. I think that's crazy because they need to be out on their own to begin with, but they think they have a better chance at survival. But when possums multiply the way they multiply, if they all lived, we wouldn't be able to walk. There would be so many possums everywhere. So my organization releases a little bit smaller than just the straight up possum rehabbers because they tend to be a little bit more. I don't know what use. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to use a word, but they're a little more worried about them. They're more helicopter moms than we are, I guess I could say.
With the baby squirrels, you said the first thing to do with the baby squirrels is try to put them back so mom can come. But what else? Any other things that you have to worry about with baby squirrels? I guess what size are they good at? Because you covered the whole deal with the aspirating. So if you find a baby squirrel and they got fur, are they good?
Squirrels are different because most of the time the phone calls we get for squirrels and their tail, I age squirrels by their tail. They're going to be long and pencil like and maybe starting to fur up. They will literally, if you'll be in your yard or going to get your mail, run up your leg. And they're looking for something to help them. Something's happened to mom. If a squirrel comes up to a human, that's usually a sign, help me. I don't know what I'm doing. So we take the squirrels in and we get them to where their tails are nice and bushy. And at about 13 weeks, because usually those are the age 7 or 8 weeks old, they don't bite at 7 or 8 weeks old. They're scared to death. They're looking for help. So we take the squirrels in, weaned, and a squirrel usually weans itself. It'll get to the point where it doesn't want the nipple, the miracle nipple with the formula. And you start keeping chopped up vegetables in their cage. And they'll just gradually go from, I don't want formula anymore. I just want to eat this stuff. And we keep stuff in there to keep their teeth filed down because if not, they'll grow into their brain and kill them. And then we put them outside in a cage and we don't fool with them anymore. And we call that letting them wild up. And they'll get to the point where when you go in there to put fresh food and fresh water in there, they just go nuts. It's like they're bouncing off the cage like you see in a cartoon. And then we do a soft release, and that means we just open the door. And I had 4 squirrels in there a couple of months back. 2 of them took off, didn't look back. No, thank you. No, nothing. 2 of them stayed for 2 more months. That was their comfort zone. They had a nice bed made in there. They had already shredded up their paper, but they eventually go out too. You can't just raise a squirrel and go, okay, I'm gonna go put you in the tree because they freeze. So they have to learn to be aware of danger. So that's why we put them outside, let the wild squirrels hear the screaming. They need to learn to use that tail as a danger signal. I have feral cats. My cats circle the cage. So they learn, oh, that's a cat that can eat me. So squirrels are a little different than just leave them there because if a squirrel runs up to you, you need to help it. It is literally asking for help at that point.
And what about for adult animals? When should you intervene with adult animals?
That's another good question because people will call us up and they go, there's a full grown raccoon in my yard, in my garden. It's curled up. It hasn't moved for a day. That is not normal behavior for a full grown raccoon. And I try to preach this. Wildlife is just afraid of you as you are of it. They do not want confrontation. They run. So if there's a full grown raccoon in your garden and it hasn't moved for a day, it's sick, and that's usually parvo or distemper. And we tell people Jefferson Parish is wonderful. We work with Jefferson Parish Animal Welfare Society. They'll go pick them up. They triage them for us. Sometimes I have to drive over there because they don't want to make the judgment call. Should we euthanize it? And I'll go over there and we discuss it and we look at the animal and I go, yeah, because there's a dry distemper and a wet distemper, and it's hard to tell with dry distemper. And the SNAP tests that we use to see if they have a disease are not formulated for wildlife. They're made for cats and dogs. So it is off label. So we don't know if we're getting a false positive, a false negative, whatever. You have to look at them. You have to handle them. You have to listen to them. Most of the time, those are the ones that definitely are sick because a full grown raccoon, if it sees you, it should take off. It's not going to want to be around people. I tell people at night when I let my dogs out before we go to bed to let them pee one last time, make a lot of noise because everybody's got possums in the yard. People don't realize that there are coyotes that live uptown under people's homes, and they think we don't see them. Well, that's because you go to bed and they come out at night. So make a lot of noise before you let your dogs out and gives the wildlife a chance to run off. Then let your dogs out and let them go pee, and then they'll come back because we put cameras out, and it's just amazing the critters that are out there at night that they wait till everybody goes to sleep and they come out and they think they're safe. So I tell people, don't pick up wildlife that's full grown or somebody will stop, they'll hit one. They're in pain, and their first reaction is going to be to bite. Leave it there. Call Jefferson Parish Animal Shelter. We'll go pick up the animal. And then if we deem it's healthy, they get it to us. So we help them and they help us. But we can't get anything out of Orleans Parish. So there's not a lot of resources in Orleans Parish. So people will drive here at 11 o'clock at night that has run over a possum or hit a raccoon. And then I've got a hurt animal that's suffering all night long because I can't get to a vet. So sad some nights because they need to be euthanized, but it's just a slippery slope. And then you try to get them somewhere to get them euthanized so they don't suffer for the rest of the time. But that's the thing with the grown ones in people's yards. Just they're probably sick if they're there because they would run if they could.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that's quite an emotional toll too
Oh, it's horrible.
to deal with
But
that.
I tell you what, it restores your faith in mankind after you watch television. Because I'll have a 19-year-old young man pull up here at 11 o'clock at night, picks up this possum that's just mangled that he hit. And I'm like, and I'll try to just overdose it with some pain meds, at least to keep it comfortable for the night. And sometimes they go ahead and die during the night because there's just no saving them. Their eye will be displaced or they've got bones broken. And it's really hard to try and heal wildlife with a broken bone because you have to keep them in such a small container or a small cage so that they won't move and that bone has a chance to heal. And what that does is stress them out worse. And then coccidia is in every mammal's gut. It's a normal thing. But when an animal is stressed, the coccidia just exponentially explodes. And I don't even know how many, but it's and then the overdose of the coccidia kills the animal. That's something else that we treat for when we get in. We try to go ahead and give them the medication that kills coccidia or keeps it at bay because young babies have it, but it multiplies and their immune system is not there to fight it off. Whereas the older ones, their immune systems are a little bit more stringent and can fight it off. But it's just sad. I love doing what I do, but we cry a lot too.
Yeah, I can imagine. Are there any kind of new regulations or anything coming up that could impact how you operate?
They're trying to stop us from rehabbing coyotes and armadillos. And we don't know why, because it's not like we rehab 9,000 of those every year. And we've been to wildlife and fisheries meetings. We go up there constantly. We're fighting them about stuff. They had some really silly rules on the book. We were supposed to keep our intake paperwork for life. We told them the IRS doesn't make you keep intake your paperwork for life. So we did get that changed. They wanted to require veterinarians to have to take this 2-hour class. We go to veterinarians to help us. This is stupid. They did change that. It's been so entrenched for so long with the old boys club, and we're trying to get them to open their eyes. And then the other thing is we try to tell them every time mankind messes with the food chain, it screws up the whole thing. And we told them, watch Yellowstone. They removed the wolves. Everything went to hell in a handbasket in Yellowstone because of that. They reintroduced the wolves. Everything went back to normal. So it's the same thing with the coyotes. We need coyotes here, but they don't because people get mad. They come in and kill a cat. That's your responsibility to keep your cat in because I've lost a couple of cats to coyotes out here in Bell Chase. But that's my fault. It's not the coyotes' fault. They don't attack children. We tell them, you kill that alpha male, you have opened a can of worms because the alpha male keeps all the little ones in check. And I use the analogy of one drug lord gets killed on a corner in the quarter. 50 more are going to move in to take over that corner. That's exactly what happens with a pack of coyotes. They are trying to survive too. We're taking over all of our wildlife habitat. And then people don't want to live with them. And it's like, they've been on this land for a long time. Y'all are the ones that just moved in, cut down all the trees, built all these new homes. This is still their habitat, but yet you don't want to try and live with them. And that's all we want people to do is try and live with our wildlife. That's the thing that we preach the most. Yeah, there are some things you can do to make your life a little easier and try and keep them out of your yard, just trying to kill everything. So that they're voting on that, but it was supposed to be voted on November the 4th, and they did not vote on it. And we were told that they were getting calls because we'd reached out to everybody. They were getting calls from Europe about it. And then armadillos, I don't rehab armadillos, but one of my subs does. And I did not know this because, of course, they dig trenches in my yard too. And I'm not real crazy about them, but they are studying them in medical science because an armadillo can get pregnant and suppress the pregnancy because they'll think it's like, this isn't a good time for me to have these babies. And if we could do that with humans, that would be great. It would take some of the equation out of everybody arguing about the rights of people, but they serve a purpose too. And people still think they carry leprosy. It's a bacteria. So if you're going to get it, you can take an antibiotic just like we do for everything else, and it'll clear you up. So that was the two things that we're fighting about right now. And then we would like to be able to keep unreleasable animals that can't move or can't see and use them as teaching tools. I raised a nutria not knowing that you can't release them. And I get that they destroy our levees. It's not the animal's fault that people brought them over here to make money off of them. And then when the fur trade bottomed out, they dumped them. But my nutria, we had to fill out more paperwork than you do when you adopt a child. He's at the zoo in Miami. And they use him as an ambassador to teach people this is why you don't bring animals that are not indigenous to our country here, because they create havoc. So they are smart about it, but Wildlife and Fisheries won't let us do that. And that's what we want to try and go and teach people. That's a goal of my organization, is to teach people this stuff. And some people are really good. I had a lady call me the other day. I've got this possum on my front porch. I want it gone. Come get it. And after she and I talked for 15 minutes, she goes, "Thank you for telling me that. I'm going to leave it alone," because they're so afraid of a disease. They see those big old fangs. And I tell people, well, the first thing a possum does is show you his fangs, and that's supposed to scare you off. And then if that doesn't scare you off, he's going to drool. And then if that don't scare you off, they can emit this green stuff that's just so nasty and smells bad out of their rectum. And then if that doesn't scare you off, they play dead. So it's, if we can just educate people, it's like anything else. If you're afraid of something and then you learn about it, you go, oh, that's not so scary anymore.
Now, what about social media? Do you find it has been helpful or harmful for wildlife?
Absolutely helpful. And I tell you what else, we couldn't believe COVID changed a world of people's opinions because so many people were stuck at home and walking. We got more phone calls during COVID because these people that leave at 6 in the morning to go to work and don't get home until 6 at night, they were seeing wildlife for the first time in years. And they go, I was walking and I saw a baby squirrel. I was walking and I saw this. And we do try to put stuff on Facebook to let people know. Every February, I post something. It's a cute little thing, and it's like everybody finds baby bunnies in the middle of their backyard because mama bunnies, unbeknownst to me, and we've never been able to figure it out, you would think they'd have their bunnies way up in the woods in a log, a hollow log, like you see Thumper and everything in a Disney movie, but they don't. They come in the middle of your backyard, dig a hole, and have their babies, and then they cover the hole up. And then when Dad goes out to mow, they see fur flying, and then they call us, and we always say, it's a cute little saying, "Put the bunny back." Seriously, put the bunny back, because Mama only comes at morning and at night to feed the bunnies. And if they're okay, you can put them back in the little hole, cover the hole back up, and you know where it is. But social media has helped tremendously. We can get more word out to people. They can ask us questions. They call us, and I'm thankful for it, because if it weren't for that, we wouldn't be able to educate people as much as we do. Except, like I said, at the beginning of every school year, I try to call as many schools as I can, and a lot of the science teachers reach out. We've gone to Country Day 2 or 3 times. We Cahill, we go to a lot of the grammar schools and try to teach, but that's another fight that we're having with Wildlife and Fisheries, because they don't want us to take babies. Okay, I've got a baby squirrel that fits in the palm of my hand, on eyes closed. When you pick up a baby animal that small, they think one thing: I'm fixing to get fed, not, oh my goodness, something's getting me. You get a lot more rapt attention from 3rd and 4th graders when you have a live animal in your hand, and they want us to take stuffed animals. And I don't want to take an animal anywhere that's going to stress them out. But if it's eyes closed and it's 3 weeks old, that's not stressing them out. And then we found out Wildlife and Fisheries was going to libraries and taking alligators, letting the children hold them, didn't make them wash their hands. And alligators carry as many diseases as any other animal out there. And we're like, why is it okay for y'all to do it and we can't do it? But that's a battle for another day. And we're trying to pick our battles with them at this point, get one thing done at a time, and then we'll go back and deal with that later. And I'm like a dog with a bone. So if I feel like something is really important, I'm not going to let it go. So I told them when we first went and met with them, and we had a wonderful meeting. I will say the new gentleman, Bradley, has listened to us. But I said, for years, y'all ignored us and did nothing for us. They don't give us any money. There used to be money set aside in the budget, but now it's all about fishing license and hunting license for that type of thing. So rehabbers get no help at all. This all comes out of our own pocket. We try to raise money. We make things. We sell things. But I told him, I said, y'all ignored us for years. Then you come in and you give us a little bit of guidance. And then you come in and you want to throw all these rules on us. I said, what y'all don't realize is y'all have stepped into a world of a bunch of older women that are retired, sort of deep pockets, and we're passionate. So I don't think you really want to get into this with us because we're just not going to let it go. But they have been very receptive and they have changed some things. But we would like to get more things changed. But like I said, you got to do it slowly for people like that. You can't just throw everything on them at once.
What is one thing that you would ask every listener to do today to support local wildlife?
Donate to your local rehabbers, save old blankets. We use blankets like crazy. And if you can't give money, I have people pull up in my driveway that I don't know how their car got across the bridge. And they're the people that'll give you every penny out of their car and money. Dog food, we feed raccoons dog food for a year. It gets expensive. And like I said, this all comes out of our own pocket. We had a lot of donations given to us. We participate in the citywide Gretna yard sale every year just from things that people donate to us, and we made $1,100. So that helps us buy the food, the shots. A tray of shots is $140. Most rehabbers have an Amazon wish list. Most rehabbers have a Chewy wish list. Just anything you can do. We have one lady that donates, we have PayPal and Venmo. She gives us $5 a month. And somebody will apologize and go, only have $5. I go, ma'am, that'll pay for one shot. I don't mind it. I don't need $5,000 when somebody pulls up, but donate to your local rehabbers. It's like everything else seems to get money given to it. The SPCA gets millions of dollars donated, but your typical local rehabber that's working out of their homes like we all do for Silent Voices, we could use the help or just a bag of dog food. I had a lady bring me blue buffalo. I went, ma'am, these are raccoons. Do not spend your money on blue buffalo. Just go get a cheap bag of dog food because we supplement their food with bananas, all kinds of fruits and vegetables. They love grapes. I do go to the grocery stores and I'm a dumpster digger because they throw it out and I'll go get stuff. Apples. They all love apples, but that would be the number one thing is support your local rehabbers because we can always use funds or food or help. And I know there's a lot of schemes out there. And when I tell people when they bring me an animal and they want our Venmo or they'll call me and I go, if you're uncomfortable giving money, bring me a bag of dog food. I'm just as happy with a bag of dog food as I am with you giving me $25. But we're pretty open and we try to put everything on Facebook. Every penny, we don't have administrative cost. We don't go to $500 dinners. Like we'll have a board meeting and we'll order a pizza. We do let Silent Voices pay for the pizza because we're all driving somewhere. But just support your local rehabber would be the biggest thing. They are coming in with a tag. If we can get 1,000 people to sign up, the state of Louisiana is going to do a wildlife tag. And then half of those proceeds or part of those proceeds will go to be divided between all the licensed rehabbers in the state of Louisiana. And there's probably about 100, 150 of us because a lot of us just have subs and some want to get their license. They just want to stay a sub because they don't want to deal with other subs. Hopefully we can get the tags made, but we're still working on getting the signatures for that because they won't even make tags until we get 1,000 people that say, yes, I'm interested.
Thank you for having this conversation with me. It was a lot of great
Oh,
information.
thank you. I appreciate it. Get the word out there. I appreciate it. Any questions? I don't mind you posting my telephone number on this podcast. I answer the phone 24/7 or I answer a text. And if people just want to call, because I do get calls for people that do have an animal they're not supposed to have, and they think you're going to tell on them and take it away from them. I'm not the wildlife police. I just want to save as many babies as I can and get them back into the woods. So if they just want some information so that they don't kill the animal when they're trying to rehab it, and I have helped other people rehab this. Okay, I've got them. What do I do? They're in North Louisiana. They can't find somebody up there, and I don't mind giving them the information. So that's not a problem either.
I'll include that then in the description so everybody can check the description for your information. And that way, if they have a question, they can reach out to you.
Yep, and we're on Facebook, Silent Voices Rehabilitation, and we have a website. So whatever they need. And thank you for having me.
And what's the website?
SilentVoicesRehab.org. One word.
Great.
That's it for today's episode. I want to thank everybody for listening and supporting us. If you want to take that an extra step, consider becoming a member. We just added this to our website, animalposse.com. Scroll down, look for the support tab. Our membership program is going to help us directly support animals in need, whether that be through vaccinations, food, or spay-neuter efforts.